towards the end of the World Cup, a lot of feet are dragging. They've had a full season with basically no break. So I'll be curious to see how the rest of the club season looks after this.
Yeah.
Some leagues are jumping right back into it. England jumping right back into it. Everybody else but Germany, apparently, which during the pre-recording, both John and I were laughing. They're not starting until January 20th. So it's a long break. Before we get into the show, I think we do want to mention, obviously we will not have, I would say, if you're looking for a heartfelt remembrance or a funny story between personal interactions between Grant Wall, John Hopkins, Ted Meyer, you will not find them here. But I think we're without remiss to mention the tragic loss of Grant Wall over this World Cup. I think I've only had about one interaction with Grant Wall, and Grant Wall was known for being a little feisty on Twitter. But despite that, he was certainly a absolute lion when it came to soccer coverage. Soccer coverage would not be as well known. There would not be people who would have been inspired to cover this game. He covered this game when no one else would. So, I as a high schooler soccer nerd, I picked up his the Beckham Experiment book and read it. And of course, that I think made players like Alan Gordon famous, and is the way he contrasted those two, I think, will always go down in history of sort of the early days of this league. And he did it, and he covered it. He also stuck to his convictions even while covering the game in Qatar, with everything that had been coming out regarding their gay and trans rights in the country, the migrants' rights. He covered it all, and he did it. He literally did it on his own. So he was quite an incredible reporter. John, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add to this.
I mentioned it on Twitter. I think the night it happened. The only two elements I have, one only slight personal thing with Grant Wall is that I remember when the Beckham Experiment came out, I worked at the National Press Club, and my wife also did, and she ran a book fair. And I remember lobbying very hard to get Grant Wall to come, and he did, and he signed copies of his book, and somewhere I have a copy of the Beckham Experiment signed by him. And it was, the timing was right. You were into soccer a lot earlier than I was, but the timing was right when that book was written. It was right in sort of my sport awakening. So it hit the right time. And the thing that I took away most from all of the, wonderful, heartfelt stories, the specific stories, is that the common thread is that he was nice to everyone and not just people who would better his career. And he would go out of his way to help people that were just starting out, or who felt maybe that they didn't belong where they were. And he was one of those people, those people that are really good about texting you on your birthday or texting you in something. Those people are worth so much. And most people aren't that way. We all I think we all want to be that way. And a lot of times we struggle to be that way, but that was clearly part of it. But, I have very limited, most of our experiences talking to each other on the internet, and then you guys listen to it. I have a little bit of sports media experience now because covering the Spirit in person, and that's not a universal thing. That sort of generosity of spirit and generosity of making people feel at ease is not standard across everybody. So I think if we can do anything, if we can take anything from the loss, I think it's that try to be more like that in your own life. And it doesn't have to be about media. It can be about anything. Just try to make people feel more comfortable in the spaces that they're in when you can, because it's I think it's a gift that you can give, and anybody can give. You don't have to be special to do it. You just have to think about it and try. So I think that would be what I would take away from it.
Yeah. And I think what most got me was everybody talking about an experience they had with him when they were just starting out. And it caused me to reflect on a lot of the people that, helped me when I was a punk 20-year-old kid trying to do this podcasting, telling my father I was going to make money off this someday. Never happened.
Little did he know. Tens of dollars.
Right. I thought this was going to be a career. But there are people that helped, grow my confidence, who stuck by me when, things maybe I didn't have the greatest show. And that was really important to me. So I reached out to several of those people, Scott Bornstein especially, who started around the league.
Scott.
Yep, started around the league with me. So That I think that was one good thing that came out of this utterly sad moment, was seeing all those stories. And he'll be missed. There's a giant, massive size hole in American soccer coverage. So I just hope, I know he would want it filled, and I hope it will be filled. So
it will.
Yeah. So to segue to that, I think every single show is struggling how to segue from this, but we did have a World Cup that took place. The soccer, all the other side shows and not necessarily side shows, but just all the stuff to the side and all the items. The soccer was pretty good. It was a pretty incredible World Cup. I did want to talk a little bit, I guess, about the U.S., maybe sum up kind of our thoughts on the U.S. men's national team. They, of course, finished second in their group with Iran, Wales, and England to make it to the round of 16. And then, of course, lost 3-1 to the Netherlands. So becoming like a fairly typical, like, decent World Cup result. Make the round of 16, you lose in the round 16. Of course, the drama. But before we get into the drama, John, give me some of your thoughts. Overall success, not successful World Cup, missed opportunity. Where are you falling?
I think you'll notice that I started to tweet more about it as the tournament went on, and I could feel those long dormant cares reconstituting in my body. I was turning into an eagle, and I heard the call of the eagle in my head. Yeah, no, I mean, they put together some moments of really impressive soccer, right? I think like some really, really beautiful movements. They did not blow the doors off with scoring. The defense was fantastic. If I'm correct, they did not concede in the group stage, right?
Did not concede off open play.
Right. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, look at through the players. Tim Ream started, Tim Ream, Walter Zimmerman, or not Walter Zimmerman.
Walker.
Zimmerman. Well, I think Walter Zimmerman is a name from World War II. Google it. But yeah, I mean, the players that brought and were sort of second guessed played fantastic. And I think the thing that, you and I keep coming back to, and you see it all over, is that these guys are babies. This is like a U23 side that they brought to the World Cup and made it to the round of 16. And it has to, I think, you would assume it gets better, right? You would assume the trajectory goes up. And we'll talk about the bit of drama about it, because I think that's related. I think it's a valid conversation to have, but the way it's being had is probably not constructive.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you, my fandom for the U.S. men's, I mean, it started with Jurgen Klinsmann. I've railed against Jurgen Klinsmann, and I just love that
you did.
Yeah, I just love how much he's being exposed right now for what he is, when he gave Neymar a player of the tournament, despite he not playing a majority of the matches.
I missed that.
You didn't hear that?
No, wonderful.
And Matt Doyle had a comment that said he talked to people from the 2014 team and said he struggled to pay attention for 90 minutes. So don't we all? I mean, but anyway, relatable. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, no, but my my fandom, my support really kind of ran dry. And there are the U.S. men's national team fan base, certainly has not helped those comments. Every time I see a post on a U.S. soccer Facebook page about how we need to just fold MLS and send all the players to Europe, or we need to stop bringing MLS players, I just kind of roll my eyes, and just it really, and it shouldn't impact me. I should just be able to put those people to the side. I don't know what it is. I mean, I can see those people there's some people out there who are DC fans that have, similar sort of crazy ideas about the team. And you would think I can kind of put those to the side, but I really couldn't put it with the U.S. National team. They just get your goat, Ted. They know that is I think it's because we love this league and talk about this league. So like the dismissal of it is out of hand is kind of, it's trolling. It's very effective trolling for an audience of us. It's also, I mean, the conversation for DC at least changes somewhat every year. The conversation for U.S. soccer is the same conversation we've been having for about, so it's like 20. I'm becoming the grouchy old man who's just like, we talked about this in 2002. It's like, there's your answer is not going to work, and I'm tired of hearing about it. Also look at where those players who are in Europe are playing now. Yeah. Like they're not playing. I mean, I was going to say they're not playing at Fulham like Clint Dempsey, but some of our players are playing at Fulham. But for the most part, the players that you're talking about are playing in some of the top teams in the world. So
I mean, that excuses, they can be in both places. We can contain multitudes. I think it's certainly fine that you have players in your domestic league. I look at the Argentina lineup that was out there. Not so much with them. I think they may have had one player on their entire team. I think the backup goalkeeper was plated like Newell's. But other than that, they seem to be mostly in La Liga. Like half the team was Sevilla, I think, or Benfica.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper who became the star of the star of the show a little bit. Not that Messi wasn't the star of the show of the final, but
second silver medalist of the game for sure.
Let's get into the moment let's get into the U.S. moment that caused me to all those good feelings about where the future of the team is going just kind of all melted away with.
Oh yes,
just the absolute firestorm. So this started actually at the World Cup. Gio Reyna, incredibly talented player. Many people consider probably the most talented U.S. player out there. I'm not going to argue with that. He had been injured and hurt a lot of the time. Apparently, it started out from. I'm going to summarize quite briefly. I'm sure I'm going to miss some facts. Was basically told by Greg Berhalter that he had it in his mind for a limited role in the World Cup. And this apparently he was training while they had a scrimmage against I think a Qatari team. He was not trying.
Walking around.
The team was starting to notice. The team was starting to be impacted. The leadership met and they had a conversation about whether to send him home. Apparently they leaned on the side. Well, let's go to him one last time. Say, hey, you got to cut this out. Like, otherwise, we're going to, we're just going to move you to the back or send you home. Like you're impacting the entire team. He apologized to the whole team. Things apparently moved on. They moved on from there. He did play some minutes. I thought he was pretty good. I don't think he necessarily made the impact that he wanted out of the World Cup. Or maybe that a lot of US fans wanted out of it. The drama, I think there's a lot of people that have criticized the way, and I think there was a lot of information that was flown around, one of which was that the players voted whether to send him home or not, which apparently was not true.
Correct.
That was not done. So there's a lot of misinformation kind of flying around with this, what really happened. The team has sort of talked about, I think Tim Ream said, really it was a non-issue. We got over it. We moved on from it. I believe he mentioned on a podcast. But the reason this really got, drudged up again was because Greg Berhalter went to a summit or a forum. I can't remember the exact name, something that was supposed to be off the record, and told this story about a player that they were ready to send home. And to me, this speaks what really gets me about this is this kind of speaks to how Greg Berhalter has approached. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to The Athletic, where they had from Kuwait to Qatar. It was Sam Stejskal Tenorio going through the team. I think the U.S. lost a really, really bad friendly. And Greg Berhalter sort of remarked about how he had no idea how hurt the entire fan base was, because the entire fan base was livid about that whole performance. They were extremely upset. He kind of thought, it's a bad friendly, we'll move on, because he's living in his in his soccer bubble. He's not on social media a lot, so maybe he's not seeing
good thinking, by the way, Greg.
Thinking, yes, maybe not seeing the things that he said, but he definitely seems to have it's almost like he still thinks this is like the same national team is on the same level of attention or scrutiny that it was, when he played in 2002 and 2006, I want to say. It's not the case anymore, Greg. Like this team has mainstream attention. It has people who literally just follow the U.S. national team. Why they do that, I have absolutely no idea.
We don't advise that.
That is the most miserable thing I can think you doing, but they exist. And I think this incident right here to me speaks that regardless of whether you think that the team can get over this, I think it is time to bid adieu to Greg Berhalter. I think he did an excellent job of getting the team to this point. I think he has built a incredibly solid foundation that another coach can easily pick up, add some pieces, maybe add a different mindset and move on. So we'll see what happens. There's no official announcement yet, but sorry, I've talked enough. You give me some of your thoughts on this whole situation and what you think the resolution to be. Should Greg Berhalter be back?
I think Greg speaking in that context belied sort of an insecurity that he has about the decision he made. Mm-hmm. And I think even though he's in his bubble, I think he hears the second guessing. I'm sure people tell him what's going on. And a confident manager takes those things on the chin and just like, yep, that was my decision, and we move on. But he doesn't have that stature internationally. He is relatively inexperienced. He managed for a couple years in Sweden, I believe, maybe 2 years in Sweden, and then managed in MLS and is a former player. So I think that's the difference. I think there are managers who have, Pep Guardiola is not going to give that interview. I don't think. He just says like, I'm bigger than this moment. I will exist beyond it, so I'm not going to dignify it. And I don't blame him necessarily for doing that. If I'm him, maybe I feel the need to like set the record straight a little bit. So it's like not just like I'm dumb. I have my own mystical reasons for not playing this really talented player who was apparently not actually hurt. But I do think that there's no real strong case in retention. The players are talented. It would be to their benefit, I think, to have a new voice and a fresh start. Any baggage that did come from this tournament and the run up could be washed away by starting over. That's why people do this, right? It's like you didn't. Even if you won the whole thing, sometimes they say you need to reinstill hunger. In this case, it's let's clear the baggage out. That you have the talent there. The player pool has done it. Let's fine tune our tactics for this group and see where we're at, where it matters here when we come home in 2026. So I think you move on. I don't think there's any real loss in moving on from him. He's not. He can be replaced. He's not irreplaceable.
Now the real question: do you think he's back? Do you think U.S. Soccer brings him back? I do. I do. I think they bring him back with the idea that they can change their mind and expectations. I mean, expectations will be raised, and there's a Copa America coming up. Apparently, the U.S. not official yet, but they have said that they will most likely. It sounds like all signs are pointing. There's no qualifying anymore for this team. No. They're through to the World Cup, but
so that's good. We don't have to sweat that. I think you're right. I think that's exactly the thinking is they'll be like, well, we could always fire him. We've got time. But I would like to give the manager 4 years from today to like fine tune everything exactly so that, they hit the ground, as opposed to maybe like after a Copa America where we go over somehow.
Yeah.
Then you bring in Bruce Arena or whoever, like the fixer. I don't know. I feel like they're going to keep him, and I feel like they shouldn't. I feel like they should just say, this is, Thank you, Greg. You got us further than a lot of fans thought we could have gotten, and now we have higher aspirations. We're going to try somebody else. I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a very, very interesting year. And if he does get hired, oh man, the ratio on U.S. Soccer. I'm just picturing it.
That's a day to take off of social media again, Greg, and all of us.
Moving on before we kind of close up the World Cup, obviously the World Cup final was yesterday, an incredible final. John, I thought you said it best: is if you can't watch this and you still just do not like soccer, there's nothing else that we can really do for you.
It was cocaine football, man. I don't that is like that is the resin distilled all in one, and you saw like the swings and roundabouts do not happen in your normal soccer game like that. They just don't.
The crazy thing about it was, I mean, this was like 70 minutes of absolute Argentinian domination, just all over the field. I believe I looked at one point, they had 1.7 expected goals to 0 expected goals for France. They absolutely neutralized France. France had no answer for 70 minutes. And then they kind of, went into cruise control, and they kind of like took the foot off the gas. They said, okay, let's just kind of see this game out. France gets a penalty, fortuitous penalty, but a penalty.
Yep.
And suddenly it's 2-1, and within 90 seconds it's 2-2. And they sort of, I think, fell asleep. I think they kind of overcorrected, panicked a little bit. But they held strong, and they managed to see that game to extra time. Then they go ahead, and then there's another penalty kick, and then a goal to make it 2-2. So now you're thinking penalties, and then it was just like it was incredible save from France. So this was a game that was just like kind of like your typical like one team clearly doing better than the other, and then the other team finding a way to sneak a goal as happens in soccer.
And that one team sort of taking their foot off the gas and playing defense and try to happens the 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead in soccer is a cliche because it's true oftentimes.
Well, it just takes one goal to half the lead. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing about it. And the game just completely went off the rails. It was incredible. I mean, you thought so many times you thought Argentina had this. This is over. Like you thought it at 2-0 in the 75th minute. You said, I don't see a way back for France. There's nothing here. Then they get the goal, and then suddenly it's 2-2, and then you have Argentina, poke the ball through to basically poke it across the goal for Lionel Messi, and you think that's it, game over, no chance. And then there's a penalty right at the last minute. And then I think the save of the tournament comes from the Argentine goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, who just lays out on a point blank shot. I would love to see the expected goals that he just
for sure. One
like 0.7, 0.8, something like that, or 0.9 or something. He absolutely smothers it. Incredible save. And then Argentina come right back and you think they're going to score again. And then there's a missed header. Go ahead.
We said it. Basically, the idea is you got a little bit of everything in that game from a wish fulfillment perspective. You got Hollywood narrative. You got Lionel Messi winning, but first of all, scoring a hat trick, being the entire offense of his team for the most part. I mean, from the functional end of the offense, and then you got to see Kylian Mbappe do like hero basketball on the soccer field, which is not a thing you normally do not see one player go dormant for 70 minutes, 75 minutes, and then just completely own it. Just like through sheer force of will and talent, create opportunities and tie the game. So, I mean, you're not someone said, I saw a TikTok that was like, if this is your first game watching soccer as a fan, don't watch any more soccer again. It's only going to disappoint you. It will never be this good again. I promise. And he's right. Like I was thinking like, this will make a lot of fans. Like this is going to give a lot of people some false impressions, I think, but that's okay. This is how you get them hooked.
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, this could bring some fans in. Obviously the timing was hilarious. Like if you go through that hour and searched Fox NFL Sunday, the amount of complaining from everybody about the fact that there was a soccer game on that was taking away pregame. Did you really need to hear Howie Long talk about how Dax Prescott's going to do when like literally you already know what's going to be said? Did you really need that? You actually you talk on the show how much you do not like booth coverage, and that was a critical element of this whole. We'll maybe get into a little bit at our next topic talking about the MLS deal, but you were critical. The Fox coverage was the booth. I will say the studio, the analysts, everybody I thought was the people when you were actually watching the game. I do like John Strong. I do like Stu Holden. I think they have an excellent chemistry. I thought Ian Dark and Landon Donovan were good. Obviously, there was the connection there with Ian Dark calling Landon Donovan's goal. I thought, Derek Ray has some controversial opinions, but still a pretty good commentator. So overall, like I thought the commentary on all of that was fine. The studio was just a mess from constantly. And I think people talked about, the amount of tributes that Telemundo did to Grant Wall versus what Fox did, I thought was pretty terrible in comparison.
My real beef was the Cletus, the dancing football robot, coming on immediately. Like it was like they were talking about the World Cup, and then you have the football robot spiking the football, and I got so mad. I knew it was coming, and it still made me mad. Yeah. And only thing I'll say about not the booth coverage, the studio coverage, is I feel for what's Rob Stone? Is that his name?
Yeah.
It's hard to talk off the top of your head for hours, and we do it to an audience of substantially less than the entire world. But when he said, "Oh, that trophy's cute enough, you're going to come back and steal a kiss or whatever," and everybody who's listening to that was just like, "Ooh, gross," and unintentionally very creepy. Yeah. But like, clearly, I have a bit of sympathy for him being like, I'm just, shooting off the cuff to like 1 billion people watching me right now.
Well, that trophy ceremony took forever. And
sure.
Can we just stop with can we like, I don't know, come up with some other way to award? Do we really need to do all of the awards at the end of the tournament? Because it's the same thing happened in 2014 too, with Lionel Messi, I think winning the Golden Ball for best player. while his team had lost the World Cup, and he has to trudge up stage when he wants to be anywhere else but on that field right now.
Yep.
And it was Sarkozy. I mean, can we just like just get to the trophy ceremony, get to the trophy, have them hoist the trophy. You can do the ceremony later. You can have it in a poster. I don't know, something else other than that.
Dan Duckworth says the Salt Bay of it all. Yeah, I mean, so you could. There's a lot of stories about the ridiculousness of the post game ceremonies, the celebrations afterwards. Somebody there was an Instagram post today that said they were talking about. I don't have the name of it again. I apologize. The name of the robe that they put on Lionel Messi at the end, which I think from one perspective, like really kind of messes with the photograph and the moment. Like I was hoping he would take it off like at some point very early on so that they would still get celebration. They didn't, but someone said, all right, well, obviously in 2026, we get to put like a leather jacket on whoever the winner is. And I was like, yeah, I think we should do that. I think that is a good idea. They have to. I did also enjoy that in the locker room celebration, they just had Bud Heavy all over the place to celebrate because they had to find some use for all the Budweiser that they couldn't sell. They're like, here you go, guys, go crazy. Go crazy, but heavy. All right. The World Cup was it's a study of contrasts. Like it was so far to one end off the field and the sports washing and the other things. And then the play on the field was so far on the other end that it was a very complicated, but at least visually pleasing at times thing. It's over now. We've got 4 years to get ready and it's coming to the United States. Save your money, save your hotel miles, your airline miles. I know I am. I'm going to establish a war chest so I can go to like multiple games. But let's talk about the league that we cover on a weekly basis.
Let's go back to the league cover. By the way, congratulations to Ismail El-Afaf and Thiago Amada, both MLS connections there. Ismail El-Afaf, of course, being the referee. He was the fourth official. I believe there was also, I think there was one of the assistant VARs.
Yep. Yeah. Also didn't get their names, but
that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool to see. Let's get into the league. Let's start talking about probably we'll keep it on the TV notion. MLS finally announced their linear TV deal. So I'll hit I think I put just the English language and kind of left out a lot of the Spanish language coverage. But basically the deal now basically only includes Fox. Fox Sports is the only linear TV deal for MLS, both for the league games, both in English and Spanish. So they do keep at least on the linear deal. Now, Fox Deportes not as big as Univision. Univision is a massive, and certainly 2DN are massive properties. 2DN and Univision get what they want, which is the
Leagues Cup.
The Leagues Cup. That's the big one they wanted. They get that. And ESPN out of it, no longer covering MLS. They no longer have US soccer and US Open Cup games. That's all going to HBO Max. By the way, I just wanted to, we're all big Open Cup fans. Remember, it's going to be on HBO Max this year.
What? Wait a second. Hold on. Really? I missed that one.
Yeah. US soccer. They got the whole properties for US soccer, including national teams and national team games that aren't like major tournaments, and the Open Cup. So the Open Cup will be on HBO Max.
And that app is a nightmare, folks. I don't know if you've had that problem on your Apple TV. It is a trash garbage.
Yep.
Oh well.
Yep. And there's a lot of confusion. I think someone, I believe it was Jonathan Tannenwald, said ESPN is now basically completely out of U.S. soccer properties. ESPN, for all I know, is still covering USL. The last little blurb they had was that they had a 3-year deal starting in 2019 or 2020. So I don't know if that includes this year or next year. We'll see. I have a feeling that'll still be. I think ESPN still very much benefits USL, and I think they'll want to keep maybe a foothold in the US soccer game.
And maybe that even actually increases their budget for the quality because it's the only game in town. So benefits, that'd be great.
Yeah, man, the quality. If you're wondering why we're talking about the lack of a linear deal, it's because every game is moving to Apple TV. And I think we've talked about it a little bit. I was hoping by the time we had the show, we had an actual physical schedule. What impacts, I guess the biggest question mark, I guess, remaining from the package is obviously package is going to cost $80 or $100 unless if you have Apple TV Plus. The league has stated that they are going to put a lot of games, I think around 40%, in front of the wall or on the Apple TV Plus or completely free. Do you think the fact that they do not have games on ESPN, it's just going to be Fox Sports, and I think in Canada it's just TSN. I think the French deal I think is through another provider as well. I think they've kind of rolled back on having a French language coverage on Apple TV. But
For now.
for now, do you think that the lack of a linear package will increase those numbers, where they are going to start offering more games, I guess, that are going to be Apple TV Plus or completely free?
I don't think so. I think
it will.
You do? Yeah. I think they're going to. They've got to still figure out a way to make it worth your while. They know that the hardcore are going to want to watch every game of their team. Mm-hmm. So what they will do, similar to the Peacock strategy, is that they will put 70% of your games available outside the paywall, and then 30%, particularly maybe the ones you want to watch, like rivalry match, that'll cost you money. That'll be what the pay is. So there's like a larger thematic question about what is the cost in sort of changing this paradigm. Mm-hmm. Since the league has launched in '96, the level of coverage has varied. It used to be on like ABC Mothership. You'd have the final on there. You'd have a couple games during the season, and then they went to over the time has gone to regional sports networks, and the variability has been bad. The one commonality for like the last 10 years is the ratings are trashed. So we have been talking about this for a long time. Is like, what can you do? What do you do if you're MLS? What do you do? Right? You've tried different networks. You've tried different time slots. You've tried different all the things you can try. You've not tried a streamer on a single scale that has sort of unparalleled resources at their command. I think it's great that they have now gotten rid of weeknight games. I think
they're still going to have them. They're still going to have them. It's going to be Wednesday, but it's going to be a set day on Wednesday. Is what they're saying.
But mostly Saturday games. They're going to have mostly Saturday games. They're going to have wraparound coverage. I think you're going to lose some people in the short term. I think in the long term, this is the only way you can grow viewership, is to somehow like premiumatize it. I think there's a lot. I know you and I are on Discord, and there's lots of like salt. No, salt is not a fair term, but like reasoned disagreement with that, saying that it should be free. I should be able to watch it on my dog ears. I should be able to stream it on DCNI.com because just because you don't have money doesn't mean you shouldn't have access to the game. True fact, and that has been the case for a long time. That venue has been open. In the time that has happened, growth has not occurred.
Nope.
So, capitalism is what it is. Like they're going to seek growth, and that's this. They're trying to figure out a way to, how do you make MLS a premium product? You do this. You put a little apple juice on it, and then maybe that makes it. We don't know that it will, but I think it's certainly. I don't blame them for trying. If I'm an MLS executive, I've been banging my head against the wall for 7 years. Like I don't know. Apple TV behind the paywall. Sure.
I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is this can't. I'm willing to give a pass for maybe a majority of this year. They've just kind of gotten things started up. This can't just be, we're just going to continue doing what we've been doing. Just put the games on this channel and that's it. There has to be expansive coverage. Give me something. Drive to Survive. I mean, that turned me from not even knowing who drove on F1 to absolutely loving F1 and caring about F1. I look forward. I feel like I'm missing when I don't have an F1 weekend, when I don't have a race. I mean, that show did that for me, and it made me care and maybe want to get into it. MLS needs something like that. The type, we still talk about the type of content that NBC used to produce when they had those like player profiles. They did one on Dwayne DeRosario. That stuff needs to come back. And I think MLS needs to heavily invest, because the way you can maybe bring some people in is if there are other stories where people talk about MLS is doing a fantastic job at covering this league. They now have all of these, new shows. They have this show that's like, they get, 1 million watchers, 1 million people watch it. And they build storylines, and suddenly their ratings, their subscriptions are going up. And then you by building up that positive coverage, you might get more people into the game. I agree with you. It's time for a change. It's time to do something different. They've been doing the same thing for 26, 30, almost 30 years now, and nothing's worked. It's been slightly increased as soccer has gotten more accepted, but it's pretty much been very, very slow increase. It's never, and right now it's been pretty much flat, I think we can say.
If it doesn't work in 10 years, we'll just put every game on VHS and send them out to everybody by mail. That'll be our option.
Yeah, I don't know. They got 10 years to get, and I think that's what they're thinking. They're thinking the long game. They're thinking post World Cup. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, let's go. See, we started out big, and now we're just going to get narrower and narrower and narrower.
Right. The funnel goes down to discussing backup goalkeeper acquisitions for DC United.
Yeah, with the DC United. DC United has finally made some offseason moves. Interestingly enough, I will say I won't say they've been quiet. But the moves they made have been necessary, but it has not been the super, like, I guess I expected guys that got here this summer that were not going to be here this year. For right now, what it looks like, most of those guys that arrived here, your Martin Rodriguez's, your Ravel Morrison, who, by the way, made a starring appearance on the Netflix show Captains, and it was not positive. Have you seen this?
No.
You have not seen? Oh man, you missed it. The Jamaican. So for those who haven't seen it, the Jamaican national. There's a Netflix series called Captains. I've only seen the clip, but there's a lot of strife in the Jamaican national team between the Jamaican-born players and the English players who play for the team, and everybody on the Jamaican players does not like Ravel Morrison. They do not like him at all. They literally mention him out loud, and they talk about how he comes in, thinks he's better than everybody else, tries to show off, doesn't pass to his teammates, doesn't communicate with his teammates. And yeah, he is not. They asked Andre Blake about it. He's like, oh, no. I can't say anything. I don't want to get in trouble.
So then it's true.
so fun with Ravel Morrison. I will say that maybe the silver lining, it's a little bit of a different atmosphere at DC. I mean, I still watch his goal. It seemed like everybody was coming over to him and, giving him high fives and everything. Maybe that's just the nature of scoring a goal.
I think that happens when you do a worldie. I think that's that everybody gets a high five.
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we talk about the new signing, I just wanted to say RJR in DC says Apple and DC United are missing a huge opportunity this season. They should be doing a Welcome to Wrexham type documentary about DC United and Wayne Rooney. This is their second chance at this.
Yeah.
This is their second chance to utilize the greatest asset that Wayne Rooney has, which is his international marketability, and they're doing nothing with it. Nothing. They're not making him do more social. They're not doing any video content other than like a few things here and there. Like, unless it's in his contract that he refuses to do it, what in the universe, what is going on? I don't understand. There must be something in his contract that limits his, because it boggles the mind, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, decent other players.
Yeah, I think the league has to kind of step in and say, you're going to make your players more available. Like we have to drive more coverage here. I think that's going to have to come from the league. I think that's honestly what happened with F1. Liberty Media was like, nope, you guys are going to open yourselves up, and some teams were like, no, we're not going to do it. And other teams were like, yeah, we need the attention. We're ninth in the Constructors Championship. We need all the attention we can get. But yeah, let's get into the signings. Derek Williams. Start with the first one, I guess, that happened, which was Derek Williams. Trade with the LA Galaxy. He is an Irish international, 180 GAM. From what we've been able to gather, he had some limited appearances. Definitely, it is very much picking the unwanted scraps. LA were very much trying to offload him. They had sort of moved past him
because he's on a very high salary.
Very high salary. In a lot of ways, but we're desperate for bodies in the defensive side. Looking at his F brief sort of stats, which you'll see that name. You'll hear that a lot. We've been digging into the stats.
That's right. We've got some numbers, guys. We're changing.
We got the analytics. We are becoming an analytics
There's
show.
A calculator on my table
a
now.
pretend analytics show. The look from producer Brian, by the way, was incredible when he said we're going to be an analytics show.
Yeah,
I can see the.
He said, "Sure you are."
I can see the sure, buddy. By the way, basically, from what we can gather, from what we've seen, limited appearances of him, he is a reverse Donovan Pines. Not very good defensively, but good at passing out of the back. We'll see how that goes.
Smash them together. we got a player.
Yes, or at least one covering the player. I don't know if we can really make much about how he's played. I think he was okay, if not that great, for the LA Galaxy. And certainly the fact they want to get rid of him. I think the team is looking for They've had now injuries that have sort of decimated that back line where they've had to rely on guys like Tony Alfaro. Do we think he's an improvement over Tony Alfaro? I know we haven't seen him play, but go ahead and throw that out.
Certainly more expensive. He is, he's like 7 Tony Alfaros, I think. So that's tough. So when you think about it like that, he's got to be really good. I don't know. The one thing that we'll talk about in all of these moves is that they are for the here and now. They're for the manager that's going to be coaching him, and this is what he wants. So it's silly to quibble with things like that right now. We just got to kind of roll with it and see. The proof will be in the pudding. Maybe he can make it work. Certainly, things need to be done. We're certainly not done. Rumsey DC said Sean Howe said January moves are going to blow the doors off. Yep, we're going to talk to Sean Howe next month about the window so far, and hopefully some doors being blown off. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm nonplussed. I'm plussed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it is very much a wait and see. I do like the idea. I do like some of these other upcoming moves coming. I think they do make the team better. Obviously, the bigger free agent. We finally are starting to dip a bit in free agency. I don't think this team historically has really sort of delved into free agency and sort of signing guys from free agency. I can't remember. I can remember maybe a couple signings, but not really any. Maybe Felipe Martins, I want to say, was a free agent signing. He might have been a trade. I'm not sure.
Or a re-entry draft. I don't remember at all anymore.
Could have been. But go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm getting old enough now that it feels like free agency was just like 2 years ago. And I don't know that that's true. It might be like 6 years old, but it feels still very recent to me.
Yeah. No, it does. But yeah, the team has signed 3 players so far from free agency. They have signed Pedro Santos, left-sided winger / left back from the
Columbus Crew.
From the Columbus Crew, formerly the Columbus Crew. Tyler Miller, former goalkeeper for Minnesota United. A lot of I think this was it seemed pretty clear to me that Tyler this was a good get, and yes. We'll talk. This was a very good get for this team to sort of shore up that back line. Also, I think Alex Bono, who has his problems, he's not really well received.
When we get into his stats too, it's not a lot of great stuff from last year.
Not all that great stuff. But I mean, is he an improvement over David Ochoa? Yes, and he doesn't take an international slot. So that's
I think you meant Rafael Romo.
Rafael Romo, sorry.
Yeah,
Rafael Romo.
If he's an improvement or not, that is debatable.
Yeah, but Rafael Romo, sorry. Improvement over Rafael Romo. But Tyler Miller's solid choice. I think if I had to, if you told me beginning of the season, hey, you're not getting David Ochoa, Tyler Miller would have probably been the guy I would have said, we need to get him then. We have to get him. Otherwise, I have no clue who we're getting, or we're dipping back into the international market, and we've seen how well that goes. Overall, solid picks. Obviously, we talked about David Ochoa. Off to Liga MX. He's going to Atletico St. Luis.
A far stretch from Barcelona.
Yeah. But, a team that does have Liga MX connections. I think this is a chance he will probably come in there and be expected to start, which I'm sure will be pretty good.
He needs to.
Yeah.
He's got to put a couple years of miles on his resume.
Yeah. And I think, obviously I think the upside for David Ochoa was certainly there. I think you are essentially with Tyler Miller grabbing a guy from the, I believe what we get for Ochoa is, I think we still hold his MLS rights. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm at least pretty positive about that we still hold his MLS rights. If that somehow
activates, I will bleach my hair blonde if in the course of a year that we hold it. He's like, I'm back. But let's talk about the prize here. Tyler Miller is on this team because Dane St. Clair existed and Minnesota had to choose, and they chose St. Clair. Reasonably, because of the year he had last year when he Wally pipped him. I believe Miller got hurt. St. Clair came in and took the job and ran with it until I think also then he got hurt. I think he got hurt again. But let's talk about where he stacks up. He only played three matches last year. Mm-hmm. He is in the 80th percentile in the percentage shots saved, PSXG /goals against. It's a 80th percentile, which measures the likelihood of a goal being scored based on the XG generated from the shots that he's faced, right?
Basically, it takes a look and it says, like, if you were expected, say you played a game and you had an XG, you faced an XG of 1.5 and you gave up only one goal. Well, then you would have been a plus 0.5 for that game, meaning that you did not give up more. And the reverse is true. If you give up 2 goals and you only faced 1.5, then you're at negative 0.5. And a lot of the stuff, soccer analytics with goalkeepers, I think they are still there's still a lot of work that's being done to try to figure out how to more accurately sort of analyze goalkeepers. So this is not a perfect stat by any means, but it is a stat. And, normally goalkeepers that, have really high numbers in this category do particularly well and are particularly very good goalkeepers because they are facing high quality shots and they are stopping them in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
If you look at his favorite, so another thing that FBref started to do is similar to Baseball Reference, is they do favorability or comparability. So they look at stats based on the age of the player across world soccer. And in the 2021 season, Tyler Miller was on par to Andre Blake, Sean Johnson, Coronel at Red Bull. So that just tells you he was a top 5 goalkeeper basically in 2021, and in 2022 it was just a matter of not being able to see the field because of the guy in front of him. So wonderful get. I think undeniably, if he's healthy, he will be our starter week 1.
Yep, absolutely. Alex Bono, not so much as far as the he sits right around, he has 0.0. So I guess his expected goals, he is not gaining you much as far as that's concerned.
He's a replacement level goalkeeper basically in the net.
He's please just be better than Rafael Romo and you'll be fine. Basically, I think is.
I think if we can compare them, he is in fact better.
Yep.
Oh, his comp is a JT Marcinkowski, who I believe is an under 21. I think he's the starter for the US under 21 team, and he plays in the USL level. So that, in the past, Alex Bono had a extended run as the starter in Toronto and played well. So he's certainly a player I think that can be an adequate backup in the league. And and to your point, is not taking up an international spot. And that's maybe his best thing about him. Yeah. Or maybe he is. He's not, right? No, he's from Syracuse. So yeah,
he's a U.S. national team. So no more international slots being used on goalkeepers. That certainly frees up an international slot. Maybe that will come into play with what the team does in the Super Draft, where there are international players in that Super Draft that are very talented. Some GA signings, I believe. The one everybody talks about from Duke is international. So that plays a role in kind of how you're thinking about who you want to take in this Super Draft, or we flip it for 200K, which is what I said. I think at the beginning, I think might happen, but
and an international spot.
Yeah, international spot.
That's what we'll take for it.
We'll see. We're gonna hold off on a big Super Draft preview until we know. I guess we'll do a review once we actually know if DC is going to take a player.
Imagine if we called Travis Clark in here and spent 45 minutes and they traded it. Imagine.
Yep.
I think we've done that before. I think that's happened.
Yep. The other big signing, which I kind of spent some time when I built this outline, kind of doing some research, looking at some plays. Mohamed Jazi, I think is how you say it.
I got nothing for you here. Yes, sounds right.
Jehaz, I think is.
We'll find out. We'll know soon.
We'll get it right. But Iraqi international from Sweden. Really impressive stats for a left back. He seems like the type of guy who is sort of certainly a younger Brad Smith, maybe a less hurt Brad Smith, maybe a little bit more polished of a Kevin Paredes. Loves to go forward, can beat guys on the dribble. He has an 80% passing accuracy, 63% on tackles, 55% successful on dribbles. And sort of the sizzle reel I watched, he can get back defensively. He also tries to push forward and sort of link up. I was kind of looking at this and thinking, you're looking at this team. Maybe you play a Pedro Santos and Mohamed, and you just kind of have them swap between who's going to attack forward or who's going to push forward or who's going to and maybe you sort of overload the left side that way. So I've actually sort of grown to think this player could do some damage. He certainly has some very impressive stats at Hammarby over in Sweden. So I think he could be a good player.
Charlie Davies' old club.
Charlie Davies' old
He
club.
has played Hammarby.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think he's going to be the highest paid left back in the league, or in the top 2, I believe. So we'll see. This is I think this is probably not a Wayne Rooney special. I don't believe he is super into either the Iraqi national team or the Swedish league. I think this might be a remnant of the spreadsheets of the past. Did we talk since Lucy Russian has been like, yes, no, we didn't. It's been so long. Anyway,
yeah, we definitely have talked, I believe.
Okay, all right. But anyway, I think that this is going to be this is a scout. This is the scouting department here. I think this is we'll see what kind of gold they've unearthed here out of the Swedish league.
Yeah, we'll see. And yeah, I think he at very least, I think he provides some good cover out there on the left side. He will be a TAM level player, so he does not cost a DP slot, which is good. I think it was kind of funny. Everybody saw the price, and it was in like the Swedish currency, which is like
holy crap.
And then they're like, oh wait, that's like $600,000. Okay, that's TAM. That's TAM level player. Let's get to the rumors. There's the biggest rumor right now going as DC United is looking apparently to Leeds United in the Premier League to sign their next player, Matthijs Klitsch. I hope again we're going to have these names down. I promise you.
I think Matthijs
Klitsch from Leeds United. Has spent a lot of time sort of going around Europe. I think he spent a lot of time, of course, at Leeds. Really helped them, I think, get to the Premiership. And then sort of, I think Tyler Adams. I'm pretty sure everybody's saying like what Tyler Adams took his spot. Do I hear that properly?
They play a similar role. I think if you've had a chance to read the Athletic breakdown of him from the Leeds perspective, he's Bielsa called him in between an 8 and a 10, and also Bielsa like begged him to stay. 2 years ago, he wasn't getting the time he wanted, and Bielsa's like, "I'll play you, don't worry." And then Jesse Marsch took over, and he didn't play very much, and that is likely the reason why he didn't make the Polish roster for the World Cup. So he's in the window for them. He's getting a little bit older, but still, from the perspective of talent, he would change the complexion of our midfield, I believe. And we don't have any players like him from what we've heard about him. So just a quick from the comps perspective, the big difference from looking at comps from Alex Bono to Matthijs Klitsch is substantive. Henrik Mkhitaryan, and also Alexis McAllister, he of the world champion Argentinian side at Brighton, are considered to be very comparable to the way Klitsch is playing in the last year. So take that on. Right. That's take that on. So, the downside here is that originally when this rumor popped, I know that you and I were very excited when it was talked about being a TAM signing. We're like, oh God, get him on the plane, bring him over here. Now it appears he's going to be a DP, which means that Paulson will be bought down as previously mentioned. So our DP slots will be filled, locked and loaded, most likely. Again, there's an asterisk there, but I think that's on.
I mean, we've seen in the summer anything could happen if things aren't going well. I mean, I think if he is a talent you bring in and he plays well and he changes the complexion of this team for the better and he improves this team significantly, I don't think you care really much about whether he's a DP. Sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. I think obviously if you could get him on a TAM deal and keep that slot open, absolutely. You do that. We'll see. Maybe he's a deal they think they can buy down. It may be one of those things where we're going to, and it's also possible when Tom Bogert was here and they think, well, we think we can get him on a TAM deal, and Leeds like, no, we want some more money on that transfer fee. So,
I think before we close the door on him, I think it's the stats are funny, so I want to talk about them.
Yeah, sure.
86th percentile in shots in the Premier League, 75% in shot creating action, 92% in progressive passes received, 85% in tackles. That's the good stuff. 5% in non-penalty goals. He does not complete passes. He does not intercept the ball. He does not block, and he can't jump. So he's a confusing player in that he's really good at tackling the ball as long as he doesn't have to leave his feet at all, either on the ground or jumping. And he's not going to score. He'll shoot a lot, but he will not score. So he will create opportunities. He will shoot and have it saved. But he's not your goal scoring guy. But that's fine. We got guys who are paid to put the ball in the net. It's just he's between an 8 and a 10 sounds very much like what he's able to do on the field. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out based on the way the rest of the players are going to have to play. I think you're going to maintain your defensive midfielding pairing if he's playing in that grouping. I think you're still going to have some help.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I think we'll all be curious to see what does the lineup look like, because he's not a player. You kind of throw him in here and you're like, all right, well, he's a DP. He has to play. Almost wonder what does this mean for the guy we just talked about, Ravel Morrison. This kind of feels like what his role was designed to be.
I agree.
Kind of that in between 8 and 10 distributor going to move the ball. This almost feels like where does he I think he's been tried out on the right. Does he go higher up the field? Are you going to play, Morrison, Funtas, and Benteke, and then you're going to have sort of a midfield line, maybe with two like more holding type midfielders. So I will say this year, I really do not know how this team is going to look or how this team is going to wind up at this point. And who knows, there could be a bunch of other players come in. This deal could entirely fall apart. And we're on some
money on that happening, guys. This has been in the works now for quite a while.
Yeah, and when things go quiet, that's when I tend to be like,
yep.
Yeah, I wonder what's really happening. Jeremy Ferfino from Twitter asked, "How do you guys feel about Klitsch as a DP?" I think we kind of said it. I think we'd like it on a TAM. I'm less negative on it. Because I think this does feel like still a kind of designated player. I think his skill set still arises to that quality. Is he blow the doors off designated player like the types that Atlanta are saying? No. But if he comes here and he's good, then he's worth every penny as a designated player.
He is the inverse Benteke.
Yeah.
He's a name that Leeds fans and Polish fans know, and like over here he's not really known, whereas Benteke is more of a household name. It would have been really cool if we could have got him as a TAM player and bought down Paulson. That would have been the best. But in a world where we're not living in that, it's fine. And Salvi Soccer Fan on IG says, should we be concerned that Sean Howe didn't attend the World Cup as a scout? No, we should not. It's fine. We saw no. He has certainly watched the games like us. He is scouting other leagues across the world at the moment. I think the most overvalued market in the world is the World Cup, post-World Cup market. So don't play in that. We can't afford to play in that.
No, yeah. The amount of players Liverpool signed in like the early 2000s based on World Cup performances and how it did not work out. World Cup's the World Cup is just, it's different animal entirely. Let's get into some off the field news. I think we'll kind of close out the show. Jason Levian making the Business Insider, I think is where we found this article.
And that's where you always want your owners. That's where you want them to show up, is on Business Insider. That's always good.
Yeah, that's always good stuff.
It's always a good story, really, if you think about it. If there's ever a breaking news about your owner, you're going to be like, this is good for the club.
Good for the club, 100%. Jason Levian accused of tax fraud by his former general counsel at DC United. So that immediately brings us into DC United, claiming that he claimed residence in Florida and lying to New York officials in that case. The case, apparently, how the Business Insider got this is that this was filed under seal via, whistleblower. And there is, certainly there are financial implications for the former general counsel for receiving this. Basically, the New York Attorney General investigated, we assume, and turned down the case.
To back up what Ted said, the financial implications are the whistleblower gets a percentage of the funds recovered.
Yeah.
So that somewhat creates a bit of a perverse incentive for that kind of thing. But that's what the cost of exposing yourself to potential counter litigation is. You got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah. Apparently, according to him, that Levian is born and bred in Manhattan. And then recently moved to DC. He alleges that there is considerable evidence, including public records, media interviews, that shows Levian has never lived in Florida, and claims that Levian's accountant told Dubert that Levian uses his parents' residence as a Boca Raton condo for tax.
Who doesn't do that? All right, everyone
Yeah.
does that.
Yeah, and you know, and so basically, I believe Black and Red United reached out to Jason Levin for a comment. He has denied the allegations. He has stated that he has retained PwC to conduct an independent review of his tax returns, and claims he does not owe any. So
No. PricewaterhouseCooper and Jason Levin said, "Hey, I paid all my taxes. In fact, I paid too much taxes. In fact, I'm the best at paying taxes, and I like paying taxes so much. I paid a little bit more." The statement came out after the fact from PricewaterhouseCooper saying, and his lawyers like, we have also filed to get that money back. Like he's not like bragging that he overpaid. And he's like, I don't care. That's fine. I got so much money that I'll just, keep it, state governments. So he's going to get that money back. I want to just say, you don't get to make fun of millionaires very often, but I think a 2 million annual income has got to be the brokest major sports owner like income stream that exists probably in the world. So, he's doing better than us, but as these things go, Jason Levin has the reputation of being the guy who does the work for the guys who have the money when it comes to, and that's what this is. So, he's just like us, man. We're trying to cut coupons. We're using Rakuten. We're getting cash back. He's deciding that he doesn't want to pay state income tax and local income tax. We got to, you got to make ends meet when you're a MLS club owner and you only make $2 million a year.
Yeah. I at first I thought there was a lot of smoke to this, and I think that's dissipated quickly.
Yep.
This was a bigger story, I think, when we were when we were writing the outline than I think it's ended up turning. Who knows? Maybe they'll discover hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes.
People were talking about like, is he going to be forced to sell? Are we going to be free? I'm like, no, man, we're not that lucky to have something this small snowball to that. That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, so no, that's not going to happen.
No, not
gonna happen. Wish.
Don't hope. I mean, come on, you guys we've been around Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders.
That's right.
Which, look how long that took to actually have something happen. And I don't think Jason Levin is that depraved as Mr. Daniel Snyder. So
no, not close.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. This is going to be the last show of the year. We for at least for DC United coverage. Check out Kindred Spirits if you want to talk. We're going to talk some Spirit coming up next. But this is going to be the last show of the year. We're going to be back coming up, I think, after the new year. We'll be ready to talk preseason. Hopefully there'll be some big juicy transfers. We'll have a schedule. We'll have a super draft pick to hopefully talk about, a lot of other things.
And
be on the lookout, we might do some other stuff too in the meantime.
If you support us at the $1,000 Patreon tier, Ted or I will fly out to wherever the preseason is out in California at Indio, California. Otherwise, we'll have to. Otherwise, you and I will both be tweeting at DC United. Where's the stream? Can we watch the stream? We need to see the stream.
If anyone's out there in California and has access, I mean, to me, maybe I'm being hopeful here, but I hope maybe someone sees, hey, this is an opportunity. Let's test out this new streaming package that we have to do.
That assumes that they have things ready at that point. Yeah. They're still not like frantically plugging in wires and moving cameras around.
We'll see anyway, inevitably,
we will not be. I will not put another show in the feed next week. I will not torture you with another replay from the past. So take a break. Set your intentions for 2023, and then we'll be back post MLS draft and with a little bit more news, and hopefully a finalized DP move, so that we can stop being like, this is falling apart, isn't it?
Sean House saying we're going to blow the doors off in January, so we'll see what happens.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch you guys in 2023. Vamos. have games. They would no longer be splitting their season out there. They were playing all their games at Audi Field. Fantastic, great news, I think, for everybody involved. Even those I think that kind of live out in Loudoun would be saying this is a good move for the team. John, you've been out to Segra Field. I have not. I've never set foot at Segra
And now
Field.
you never will.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll check out a Loudoun game. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'll be out in the area. Maybe I'll be out in Loudoun at some point. But
I'm the weirdo that actually likes I can take back roads to Segra. So I kind of liked it. Like, it was a nice little jaunt for me in the woods, the curvy woods. But I think overall, like, the benefits to the team are, immeasurable from a financial perspective, from an injury prevention perspective, from a amenities perspective. This is great news, and glad that the team was able to work with DC United and make it happen.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see the cooperative aspect with the new ownership, to sort of get this done, to get the team playing in a stadium that they absolutely should play in. And additionally, this, like I talk about with me, like, this improves my chances of going to see a game, because when they were splitting their season, I am not, essentially driving to Segra Field would tack on an extra hour of a 2 to 3 hour trip, depending on traffic. So you're talking 4 hours there and back to watch a soccer game. And I've taken the trudge out to Boyd's, Maryland to watch a Spirit game before. So I've done that. And it was an absolute, it was certainly a long drive to get out there. So I'm happy about the sort of being at Audi Field. This increases the amount of calendar games for their home schedule. Of course, the big also news, this will include Challenge Cup games as well, will be hosted at Audi Field. The Challenge Cup, learning their lesson from 20. Maybe we'll get into a little bit about that. But overall, a fantastic move for the team. Great to have them at Audi Field, and I think we can't just say anything but good things about it.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's actually talk a little bit. I know we have other roster moves, the roster and of course the coaching moves. I think actually you have this later in the. I should have read the whole draft.
It's okay.
We're getting into it. Okay, let's talk coaching. Of course, the Washington Spirit parting ways with Chris Ward after last season and all that came out about that. They have now hired head coach Mark Parsons returns as the Washington Spirit head coach. He previously coached the team from 2013 to 2015, I believe, was he part of the championship team, or the team that made the championship run? Was he the coach then, or was that somebody else?
I do not know.
I am pretty positive he was. Let me do some Googling real quick, but he was the coach of the team from 2013 to 2015.
Made the playoffs in 66% of his seasons with the Spirit.
Yep.
And while you Google, I will. Most recently, he was the manager for the Netherlands women's team for a very, very brief time, exceedingly brief, because he was also he was the head coach of the Portland Thorns 2016 to 2021, where they won the championship in 2017, the Shield in 2016 and 2021, and made 5 consecutive playoff appearances. So the Thorns, obviously a juggernaut in that time period. So there's the roster is great, but you have to be that good that long. There has to be some element there of the coaching that was able to keep it consistent. So the Thorns also scored 182 goals during his tenure there, which is the most of any team from 2016 to 2021. So a dynamic offense is maybe something you're looking forward to here back with the Spirit with the players they have at their disposal.
Yeah, and it was actually he left. So I guess we can give him credit for sort of building up that team. He left in 2015. The Washington Spirit made their run to the final in 2016 under Jim Gabara as the coach. So
famous coach, also famous father of Tyler Gabara, former Loudoun United player. for your little bit of knowledge.
Yep. So not the so he wasn't part of that team, but still a well-renowned coach. And certainly it's an almost very different atmosphere at the Washington Spirit than it was when he was here in 2013 to 2015. Whole different ownership. He pretty much missed the whole, missed the current ownership.
I don't think anything could be more different from like going back to the same job. I can't imagine I think the only thing he's going to recognize is Torrey Huster. I think everything else to him is going to be like, what is going on? I thought we go to the Plex. This is very confusing to me. I will say, you and I are not long-term suffering Spirit fans. I think there was some division in the fan base about this move. I think there were some folks that were not excited about it. I don't know if it was from a demographics perspective they weren't excited about it, or there was something specific to Mark Parsons' time with the Spirit where they wanted him out.
Yeah, see,
or didn't want him back. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, he's certainly. I think he was kind of the expected. Like it would have been like.
In fact, we called it as soon as he got fired from the Netherlands.
Or I think he stepped away. I don't think he was fired. I think he took a step down.
I mean, sure.
But anyway, but I think it was we all kind of saw this move coming, or we thought this is the move that if you're a betting person and you want to bet in Vegas on who would be the Washington Spirits coach, if you can find somebody that can take those odds.
This was the minus 130 line.
And so I think that's where it's coming from. Maybe you would have liked to have seen more maybe a different pick, maybe a different mind or a different idea. I think this team suffered an embarrassing 2022 season. They're basically making the safe choice, thinking that they have the talent that they can kind of to get around it. And for all, for what we know, again, everything about, what we know from the outside, maybe hopefully it's not what's going on the inside. Mark Parsons is a very respected coach. Of course, we've seen that what we thought were respected coaches, things happen, and we'll maybe get a little bit into that about the NWSL report. But for all we see from the outside, he seems like he's a well-respected coach. I do think there are some issues with the hiring process that the Spirit went through.
Yep.
There apparently was not much of a search or an interview process. It looks like maybe a huge gap in all of this is NWSL does not have the same sort of rules that you need to follow.
That's a good rule. Unfortunately, they have so many rules they need to get instituted. Like that one is maybe not the hottest of the buttons. They've got some other ones that are blinking red lights. Certainly, they've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
I would say that is one problem with the hiring process. Another problem from my perspective is so many of the moves were made. Mark Krikorian is really driving this bus, and he's Moreno Imaizumi, a player development coach, previously an assistant at the Red Stars, but before that was with Krikorian at FSU for like 10 years. They hired Don Scott, the director of performance and medical innovation, which is a long title. Most recently Inter Miami, and for 9 years was the head of sport for the English women's team, then went to the U.S. team for 9 years, went back to England.
A lot of people talk about that move being really big, though. I think
I think my issue is that, like, that's fine. I think Don Scott hiring your sports science thing before you hire a manager is fine. But I think there were multiple assistants hired before the managers there. I don't think he's going to get to choose any of his own assistants. Mm-hmm. I think that always sets up for a weird dynamic when it's like, how much authority do I have here? Like how much room do I have to run? And I will tell you, probably based on the Spirit's history, is not a lot. I think that likely what was told, Michelle Kang and Mark Krikorian is probably like, we need to cut the S. So if anything goes wrong, Mark, you're empowered to fix it. So you put the structures you need in place to succeed and to make sure that we have the environment that we have promised for multiple years and still have not fully delivered. So I think that's the explanation for why this is happening. It's a little bit backwards.
Yeah, but I think it's good to see, I guess, a lot of these sort of outside just the assistant coaches and the coaches hire, which I think the Spirit were kind of run for several years, where it was you talk about having a structure that is more like soccer teams are more than just coaches and the assistant coaches. There's, if anyone played a football manager, say there's so many different roles that you have to hire that stand outside of that. And those are all very important roles that I think can help improve and professionalize a team. So I think that part of it I like hearing about some of these other roles.
And look, even who Chris Ward was able to bring in last year. You had Lee Nguyen, who had no experience as a coach, who was just retired from a player. You had Angela Salem, who, same story, was just a player, had no experience as a coach. So I think there was some major roles missing. They didn't have, so they're stocking in these with experienced, seasoned coaches that are setting the tone and professionalism and like player accountability that they want. So hopefully if there's any other coaching changes, it's just for bad performance of the field. That's the only acceptable situation going forward.
Hopefully. Obviously, we talk about the roster moves. They've re-signed Cam Bagalski, Tori Huster, who if there's a record out there for most consistent seasons with one NWSL team, she has to hold that record.
She does, literally.
I'm pretty sure she holds that record. She's probably going to hold that record for a very, very long time, unless things change. Marissa Shiva and Amber Brooks, the double bird.
Yes, right.
They became famous last year for the double bird. So
that was just this week. So that is happening today. But I wanted to dig into those players a little bit. I think I definitely underrated Cam Bagalski by the eye test. I think that every time I watched her in person at Segra, I was not super impressed. I think because I generally prefer fullbacks that get further up the field, that are a danger to cross the ball. It's not her game at all. But the benefit there is that the things that are her game, she's extremely good at. She's 86% in the league in dribbles completed, 99% in tackles, 99% in clearances, 83rd% in aerials won. So she's very, very good at the thing that she's employed to do. Stay right there. Stay at right back. Don't go anywhere else. Don't go forward. That's not where you're eating. Because she's 28% in pass completion, 52% in progressive passes, and just a non-factor going forward. She compares to Amani Dorsey at Gotham and Caprice Didasco from Houston, who a year ago won Defender of the Year, I believe, when she played at Gotham, also a former Spirit player. So if that is, I think she's on a 1-year deal with a option. That's great. I don't think maybe you want to have an option at right back that's maybe more of a offensive contributor, particularly as you've lost Kelly O'Hara to Gotham. We didn't talk about this because that's been there in the most absurd announcement yet of a free agent player departure in NWSL history, on the Men in Blazers podcast with a jersey. That's how people were made aware. And then shortly after that, a very hurried statement by Michelle Kang and Mark Krikorian, like, "Hey, yep, we knew that. We totally knew that was going to happen. But here's the posts after the fact."
Yeah, man. You hope it gets better, but man, there's just NWSL continues to be just kind of out there, I guess. There's just news. There's just not a lot of. The infrastructure is just not there, and
it's getting there. It's getting there slowly.
You gotta hope it gets there soon.
Other players that signed. Shiva did not play very much. She came from. I believe she played previously at Utah Royals. Mm-hmm. She only played 8 games, did not really factor. I think the limited play time did not help her stats out. But I know that people close to the team were very pleased with her and how she filled in when they needed bodies on the wing during the great call of 2022 when everyone was hurt or playing in national team duty. And Amber Brooks is an interesting case here. She's like the inverse Bagalski. And this is also, she scored more goals than probably she should have, and it torqued her numbers all crazy. She's going to be 32 in like 3 days, and probably by the time this podcast comes out, 97th percentile in the league in non-penalty goals for defenders, 82% in shots, 71% in passes attempted, 61% on completions, but is top like 98th percentile in aerials won and 72% in clearances. So similar, we talked about this in DC United with another signing. If you could meld them together with another player, they would be a tank of a player. If you could fuse her and Bagalski together, boy, you are not getting a ball past them on the ground or in the air.
And she's a player that I think beginning of the year I was like, I'm not sure you want her back. And I think she really sort of improved down the stretch of the season and became a much more solid player. She is 32, which kind of surprised me. I did not realize she was at that age. But hopefully, this is a year I think where the team's trying to bounce back. I think they're trying to get back to that, being that competitive team. The attack is going to be still as dominant as it has been. And the schedule is much better this year. Much better. And then obviously, Gabrielle Carl, sorry. I want to say Carlisle. Carl, 24 from the Canadian national team, 30 caps, 2-year contract, a team with an option, spent the last year in Sweden. Seems to be a solid player, either a center back, left back, or left mid. So she plays sort of on the left side of the ball. She would have to be like a fill-in, I feel like, on that wing position.
I think because you've lost Julia Rotter to Sweden, I believe is a very good chance that she is your starting left back at the beginning of the season. So that's something to look at. Center back, I think Sonnet will still feature if she's healthy, and Sam Staub, Amber Brooks as your sort of third replacement. I still think they could add some depth on the right, as I just said, on the right fullback side. But I bet you that she's going to start the year out on the left. She also played for Krikorian at FSU, so he knows what to expect from her as sort of a caliber player. So they were excited about this. This was their first get of the offseason that wasn't a re-signed free agent from a team that played very poorly.
Yeah, and a lot of talk. I really wish we knew like the cap size of this team, to be honest. I wish we knew it. But Tori Huster, by the way, also returning at 33. I feel like we kind of glanced over her a little bit, other than mentioning. I'm very curious to see what type of role. I mean, she's coming off a major injury that
Achilles.
kept her. Yeah, that kept her out of the final part of 2021. And I don't think she played a minute in 2022. So it's
she doesn't have the 22. She doesn't have the 22 stink on her. She's the last that she was playing. She was cutting people up in the midfield at Audi Field before her Achilles unfortunately popped.
So I'll be very curious to see what her status is going to be like, how much she's going to feature in games. Or is this, I think at the very least, this is a get her back in. She's a culture signing. I mean, she's like, I've been here for 10 years. I'm not going anywhere else. I want to kind of stick around DC. So I think that's certainly the nature that's going on there. So
the unfortunate part is that in 2021, she was playing phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
she
incredible.
She was. I was looking back sort of at the highlights, and when I reissued her interview that we did with her, it was right after she ran about 20 yards to intercept a pass, and then play in an assist for, I think, an Ashley Hatch goal, or maybe a Trinity Rodman goal. But she, right before she was injured, she was Cruyff turning people in the midfield. She was. So the question is, what is the impact of her mobility in a defensive midfield position? Is she going to be able to cover the same ground she covered before? I think the good thing is, you've got your Andy Sullivan still in defensive midfield. You lose your Gabby Vincent, a player that, maybe she comes back, but a player that was hoped to be sort of the Andy Sullivan replacement, who played 6 minutes, I believe, last year due to a whole bunch of injuries. So you need some continued depth in midfield, a defensive midfield. Last year, it was a perceived strength. It turned into a weakness. They were unable to stop a lot of teams from scoring, or really their challenge was more unique than that. It was that they would fall apart from winning positions and lose leads late and couldn't score very often when their top players were off the field. But if she can still move, I think that she plays more than you think. I think that she'll probably, if her mobility is there, I think they're going to find a way to get her on the field in half the games. She's that good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Obviously, we won't get kind of sort of the run up to the Challenge Cup. Let's get into the season structure, which was just announced. And I guess the biggest news was, and like we talked about earlier, NWSL learning their lesson. They're like, hey, remember when we absolutely murdered the Spirit in like the first third of the season and had them playing like every single day almost, like maybe getting like a day break between then? What if we didn't do that? What if we made this just basically our answer to it's what it's become. It's become the answer to the Open Cup. The Challenge Cup will be played throughout the season. Most of the games will be taking place. We don't have an official schedule yet. Most of the games taking place during the Women's World Cup, which I actually like. I like that idea.
Sure. Gives your depth players a chance to play in a thing that will not ultimately decide the season.
Yeah. And you still have like, your higher profile matches are going to be probably like the semifinal and the final. You play that when all the players are back in post World Cup, and that might be a big showcase type event. I would still love to see them take this tournament. I don't know if they ever will, but we're talking about the development of lower division women's games. I would love to see this just transformed into a league cup of sorts for women's soccer. Allow some of these lower division teams to come in. I think it could be something fantastic, and that's something I hope we see.
Yeah, you've got the USLW league, and you also have the Canada just started a women's league. So again, possibilities. I still think, I think we were talking to Ashley Hatch about this. She's like, the implication is like, we're going to skunk those other teams. You understand that, right?
Yeah.
It's not really fair at all, but we could do it. We should do it.
I mean, but it's,
She didn't say that. To be clear, no one gets in trouble. But I think that she agreed with my premise. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and I think it's you talk about the lack of opportunities, and we've talked about it with the women's national team. Apparently, there's going to be a Women's Club World Cup coming. FIFA's announced that. We'll see how that gets off the ground. I think that I'm much more excited about the prospect of that than the men's side, which I'm sure everybody's talking about the amount of games people have to play. And everything like that. But first kick for the regular season will be March 25th, 22 match season.
No, this was the thing I was confused. There are no midweek games in this league at all. 0, except for the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, which makes sense. Playoffs start October 22nd. We don't have a weird World Cup coming up, so it's October 22nd with the final on November 11th. So should be a good season. I'm looking forward to the Challenge Cup being less of a stick this at the beginning. I'll be curious to see how Mark Parsons approaches this tournament, whether he stumbles into the semifinals and finals as well. But I think this, at the very least, we're going to have sort of a less chaotic beginning to the season this year. It should be a much better judge of this team. Of course, this team will most likely be impacted again by the World Cup.
Undoubtedly. The entire offense will take a vacation to. Is it in the same place? Is the Women's World Cup in the same?
It's in Australia, New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah, so get ready for those 3 a.m. games, everybody.
Watching the World Cup. You're right.
I actually looked at the schedule. They have 2 9 p.m. games and then a 3 a.m. game. So there's just one that's super early. So enjoy waking up. I don't know. I might just have to record it and make the coffee.
Producer Brian will be awake with his newish born child. So he'll have to do the notes for us.
That's great for you, man. That's great for you. You might get up for some of those. Hey, I can just sit and watch soccer.
There you go.
That's how it'd be. He's shaking his head. It doesn't sound like he has the same enthusiasm about this idea as I do. Guys, we're gonna have an interview coming up with Terry McKeown. Should be around coming up in the next week or so. We might drop it to Patreon as a thank you.
We will.
Yeah, and
which, by the way, is at patreon.com/rkrefugees. Yes. If that's something you want to investigate in. Go ahead. You say something?
I was just gonna say, hey, drop that pledge in now. We are. I think we pause. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure how the pause works. If you drop your money, if it still takes your money, if you want to donate, or if it still holds that.
We're back in now. So now, if you join, you get charged the day you join. So
okay, gotcha.
We're going to be back to every week podcasting in the first week of 2023. So this is our last episode, our normal episode of 2022. Patreons will probably get our that aforementioned interview before the end of the year. Everybody else, you'll be looking to the next year, and then we'll hopefully have some more information on the team and some more information, particularly in the schedule, so we can see how that goes.
Yes, please don't release the schedule like 2 weeks before the season starts. Please
don't.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for listening. We will catch you guys in 2023, except for the Terry McKeown interview. So check out Vamos. But regular show 2023. Vamos.